Hi, my name is Debra Loder, and I am the registered dietitian and dietary manager at Wickenburg Community Hospital here in Wickenburg, Arizona. And today we're bringing you some holiday safety and health items and tips so that you can stay safe around this Christmas season and this New Year's season. So I want to start by saying that this is probably going to be a different year for most of us because of COVID. And I know that here in Wickenburg, since we've had kind of a surge in patients, COVID patients, I think a lot of us are going to be even more careful this year to not go into groups and into big gatherings. So I'll get a little bit more to that in a few minutes, but I thought that first we would talk about food safety. You can tell we're at a hospital. You probably hear the siren in the background, so we'll let it go by. Okay, here we go. So we'll start about holiday food safety tips. And food safety is really important year-round. It's something that we should be paying attention to all the time because foodborne illnesses are very hard on the body. They're very, very difficult diseases, and it's hard to recover from those. So right now, food safety is more important because a lot of us are watching our immune systems and wanting to make sure that we're in top-notch shape, and we want to make sure that we don't have any kind of foodborne illnesses. So some of the things that we can do, and I'll tell you that I use the USDA food safety website, and in a little while I'll share the name of that website with you, and I'll give you some information on that, how to go to there. But it's the USDA foodsafety.gov website. So the first thing, there's kind of four things. First, we want to clean, we want to separate, we want to cook, and we want to chill. So let's talk about what all of those things mean. Clean is to wash your hands often. So right now with COVID, we're all talking about washing our hands for 20 seconds with warm water and soap. So that's what you want to do anytime you're in your kitchen preparing food, is to make sure that your hands are thoroughly clean between each task. It's not just walk into the kitchen, wash your hands, and you're good to go. We'll talk a little bit about when to wash hands. The other thing is to wash all of those food contact surfaces. I like just hot soapy water for washing and getting the dirt and grime off, and then following up with either a spray sanitizer that is healthy for the kitchen, or just a couple of drops of Clorox in a basin of water will help to sanitize those surfaces. So either of those methods work. You want to make sure that you clean the surfaces both before, during, and after food preparation. Another thing is to wash your fruits and vegetables. When we think about fresh vegetables and we think, well, I'm going to take the peel off of the potato, so why do I need to wash it? Or I'm not going to eat the rind of the cantaloupe, so I don't need to wash it. But you do need to wash those things. You need to wash them both to get off any surface germs, but also to get off any surface dirt. Because you think about that potato, it grew inside the ground, so they still have dirt on them when they arrive in the supermarket. That cantaloupe or that watermelon also lays on the ground while it's grown, so you want to make sure that you get all of the dirt off. You don't need to put any kind of sanitizer on it or anything like that, although I've known people who have washed their fruits in a solution of Clorox and water. I would recommend, though, that you use either vinegar or lemon juice if you want to do something like that. Vinegar is a natural sanitizing agent, so you can just put about 1/4 of a cup of vinegar in a nice bowl of water, and then dip your fruits and vegetables in and then let them dry off. If you use a chemical, sometimes it can cause digestive issues, so I recommend that you just use the lemon juice or the vinegar. The other thing is to not rinse off your raw meat or poultry. because that spreads those bacteria to the rest of your counter and your sink and what have you. I can remember when I was a child, my grandmother making fried chicken, and the first thing that she did was put it in a bowl of cold water in the sink and wash everything off and lay it on a towel to dry. Well, that was really just spreading the bacteria. So we recommend that you don't do that these days, just to maintain some safety. So I'm getting back now to when to wash your hands. It's not just before you start cooking, but between cooking tasks. So if you're handling something like raw chicken or raw beef, and then you're going to make the salad, be sure you wash your hands before you make the salad, after you touch the chicken, before you make the salad. The other time is to wash your hands between cleaning tasks. So if you have just cleaned all your counters, even though you're using soap and water, you want to still wash your hands again before starting to cook again. So those are the really important things about cleaning, keeping your surfaces and your hands nice and clean and sanitary. So the next is to separate. So it's really important to separate the raw foods from the foods that you will eat without cooking them. So what this means is if you are buying chicken and lettuce at the same grocery trip, make sure that in the basket you keep them apart. Always put your meats in one of the plastic bags that they provide for you there at the store, and always put your vegetables in a plastic bag. And so that helps to keep those separate, but also kind of separate them in the basket if you can. Keep your produce in one section, your canned goods kind of together, and then your meats and things like that farther away. When we're talking about separate, it's those things that, the things that we want to protect is anything that you're going to eat raw needs to be taken very good care of and not contaminated by something that needs to be cooked to be served. So those are kind of the separate guidelines. The other thing is to keep them separated while you're preparing the meal. I like to make the salad and then put it in the refrigerator before I start anything else. And then that way I know that it's tucked away in the fridge and it's not going to get contaminated. But if you don't do that, make sure that you're working in different stations in your kitchen so that you have raw in one place and things that have to be cooked in another spot. You should consider using separate cutting boards as well. You need to use one cutting board for your meats and fish and things like that, and then another for your raw vegetables. You can get color-coded cutting boards these days, and you don't have to go all out and get really expensive ones. You can even get those little thin mats that work really well to separate your foods. And like I said, they're color-coded so you know when to use what. The next thing is to cook your foods to proper temperature and to store your foods at the proper temperature. Your refrigerator needs to be lower than 40 degrees or lower. So invest in a little refrigerator thermometer and put it in the refrigerator. I like to have two, one in the top of the refrigerator and one in the bottom, so that you can make sure that your refrigerator is keeping your food cold enough. And monitor that at least once a day. The freezer should be at 0 degrees at least. A little bit below 0 is better. So keeping your food cold is really important, and then also cooking your food to the right temperature. So when we talk about that, we want to have our foods either below 40 degrees or above 140 degrees, 145 degrees. So when when you're cooking something, you need to get it to the proper temperature for that ingredient. So chicken and beef and things like that have a specific temperature that you need to get them to when you cook them so that they're safe to eat. Leftovers need to be cooked to 165 degrees. And so it's good to have a little pocket thermometer to check to make sure you're cooking things to the right temperature. There are charts. I recommend, I'm going to talk about this website. This is www.foodsafety.org. has great resources on there to help you know what temperature to cook your foods to. So look at that website, and there's a whole list of different food items and what temperature is safe for those. It's really important too to cook eggs thoroughly. I know some people like them over easy, but sometimes, especially if you're not cooking your own, they don't get to the proper temperature. They should be to 145 degrees, and that will firm up the egg white. So make sure that the egg white is completely firm and that the yolk is a little bit firm. Not you can still have it like over medium, that's okay, but just make sure that you're cooking your eggs well. And don't eat that uncooked cookie dough. I know we all are tempted to do that at this time of year, to be making the batch of cookies and then you eat a piece of it. Don't do that unless you have purchased the pasteurized egg product to use instead of whole eggs. If you do that, then okay, I'm okay with that. But don't, if you use raw eggs in anything, please don't eat that. You can use liquid pasteurized eggs and make your eggnog if you want to do that. And there are other in-shell eggs that have been pasteurized. So if you're making eggnog, be really, really careful with that, especially if you have someone who has a low immune system in your household, because you don't want them to get ill. If you go to, once again, to foodsafety.org, there are so many resources, and that there's information on all the different foodborne illnesses, so that you will be able to monitor yourself and make sure that you haven't contracted one of those foodborne illnesses. The other part of this is to chill. So we talked first about clean and then separate, cook, and now it's chill. And like I said a few minutes ago, we want our refrigerator to be below 40 and our freezer below 0. Remembering to separate things in the refrigerator as well. Your meat and things like that could drip juices onto something need to be in the bottom of the refrigerator, and then your raw products, those things that you won't be cooking, should be on the top. Check your thermometers in your refrigerator and freezer often. Also, it's important that when you're thawing your food that you use care. Thaw your food in the refrigerator, under cold running water, or in the microwave. Of course, it's going to take a lot longer in the refrigerator. A large turkey can take up to 5 days to fully thaw out so that you can cook it. So plan ahead and put things in the refrigerator to thaw and give it plenty of time. Also, if you are thawing it under cold running water, you need to make sure that that package is tightly sealed so that you're not getting those bacteria from the meat on your sink. I like to just put a bowl in the bottom of the sink, put my meat package. If you're not sure if it's tightly sealed, put it in a Ziploc bag, and then put it in the bowl and let the water just drizzle over that, and that keeps the water flowing and that makes it thaw out a little bit faster. That food should then be cooked immediately. Don't thaw it that way and then put it in the refrigerator to wait for a day. Thaw it that way and immediately cook it. The same goes for thawing things in the microwave. If you're going to thaw a food in the microwave, please then continue to cook it. Don't thaw it and then save it for tomorrow. It should be part of the cooking process. The other thing is obvious. If you have something that you're not sure of, if in doubt, throw it out. So if it doesn't look right, if it doesn't smell right, or even if you're just not sure what it should look like or smell like, don't eat it. Don't take that chance, because it can really make you sick. Like I said, go on to the foodsafety.org website. You can find this resource that I just looked at. You can also find those temperature charts, and you can find information about foodborne illnesses there. So that's about enough about food safety. Now let's talk about how to enjoy the holidays. Well, I think that this year the holidays, they include this year COVID, and we are seeing surges in COVID cases across the nation. So I know that a lot of us have curtailed our plans and we're not getting together for those usual holiday and family gatherings. The guidelines state that if someone doesn't live in your household, then you should maintain distance from them and not celebrate with them. I'm going to go through a list of things that the CDC recommends. That is another really great resource out there. It's I found a lot of things at cdc.gov and then 19 NCOV. After that, when you get on that, a lot of different really great resources will pop up. And I found these wonderful handouts that are real colorful. And so if you are, if you're a teacher or if you work in an office someplace, you might print out a few of these to have available for your clientele. It just gives some really great information, and I wish I had found them a little bit sooner. But we'll talk about COVID, and I know that you hear this every day, but it bears repeating because it is so important. So the best way to avoid catching COVID is to avoid being exposed. So how do we do that? So we've talked about masks. Please wear your mask if you go out in public. I know that some people think we look silly with a mask on, but I think most of us have gotten over that at this point in time, that we need to wear that mask. And remember that if I'm wearing a mask, I'm protecting you. If you're wearing your mask, you're protecting me. So together, if we're both wearing masks, we are protecting each other. The next thing is to keep your distance. I think that sometimes we get a little bit lackadaisical about keeping the distance because we do have on masks, but I think that we need to do both. We stay far enough away to feel safe, and if someone gets in your space, you can ask them to step back. I know that sometimes at the grocery store, I feel really uncomfortable with someone being close to me, even if they have their masks on. So I will take it upon myself to move me, and that way I feel more comfortable. So stay within your comfort zone, but I believe that the farther we can stay away from each other, especially someone that we don't know, someone that doesn't live in our household, the safer we are. So the next thing is to wash your hands often, and we talked about that with the food safety portion. Keep your hands really, really clean. Right before I started talking, I put on hand cream, and I realized how dry my hands were. They were I have little cracks on them where my skin has cracked because they're so dry. So take really good care of your hands in addition to washing and sanitizing. Make sure that when you're not going to be cooking or you're not going to be caring for a child or changing a diaper or anything like that, be sure you have lotion on your hands or cream on your hands. At night, before you go to bed, lotion up really carefully so that your hands stay hydrated, because all of those little cracks, and I've got a lot of them, so I should talk, but all of those little cracks are harboring places for bacteria. So be really careful with your hands. They are really important during this time of COVID. Avoid touching your eyes, your nose, and your mouth with unwashed hands. So this is what happens, if we are in a grocery store and we come out of the grocery store and put our groceries in the trunk of the car, and then we get into the car, into the driver's seat, and we take off our mask. What have we just done? We've been putting those hands close to our eyes, our nose, and our mouth. So I recommend that you keep hand wipes in your car or a little bottle of sanitizer in your car or in your purse, and wash or sanitize your hands before taking off your mask. Really, really important. I think it's always important to do that, but COVID has just made it more in the forefront for us. Stay at home if you're not feeling well. I think that sometimes that's the best thing to do, is just to say, you know what, I can't do it this time. I need to, once again, take care of you and take care of me. If I'm not feeling well, I need to stay home in order to take care of you. So think about others when you go out in public, and that's another good way to help prevent the spread of COVID. Cover your cough or your sneeze. So sometimes we cover our cough or our sneeze with our hands, and that's really not a very good thing to do, but sometimes that's all you've got. So if you have to sneeze into your hand, then immediately sanitize or wash. If you use a tissue to sneeze into, throw that tissue away immediately and then wash your hands or sanitize your hands. Or cough into your elbow like this. So that's some of the ways to cover your cough. Be sure that after you coughed or sneezed, whatever you've coughed or sneezed into, wash your hands. Once again, clean and disinfect all of those surfaces. So my husband and I do this. We have this little routine when we get into the car after shopping. We have our little hand wipes there. We both wash our hands with a hand wipe, and we take off our masks, and I lay mine in my lap. And then he takes his hand wipe and wipes the steering wheel and wipes the door handle. And that's a good way to reuse that hand wipe, and it keeps those surfaces clean. Yes, they're going to get germy between, but if you can kind of wash them, that it's just another layer of protection. So keep all of those surfaces clean and disinfected. And then once again, just avoid congregating in large groups. There are a lot of different guidelines, and one guideline that I've heard is to not be in groups of more than 10 if you're indoors. And that's one of the things that we do here at the hospital, is make sure that we're not in very big groups. So if we have to all be in a room, we try to maintain the numbers at less than 10. And then another guideline I've heard is that if you're outdoors where you can have more room and more fresh air, that don't congregate in groups of, I've heard a couple of numbers, 30, and I've heard 50. So once again, I think it's whatever you feel comfortable with. If you don't feel comfortable going into that group, then don't do it, even if you're outdoors. So now I'm going to kind of go through some of the things that this little handout says from the CDC. I just love this. It says the safest way to celebrate is at home with people you live with. So once again, celebrate with those people that you know. Some of the ideas that they've given here is to host a virtual celebration with friends and family. So what it says is to do a Zoom or a FaceTime meeting with your friends and family, and while you're together virtually, then open your gifts from each other. So that's kind of a really neat thing. And that's one good thing that I've learned because of COVID, is I've learned how to do some of those things. So if you don't know how to do Zoom or do FaceTime, find someone who does and get help from them, because it can really be a great way to stay in touch with even your next door neighbors. It doesn't have to be someone that lives in Chicago. It can be anyone that lives around you but maybe not with you, so that you can celebrate the holidays together. Gather virtually for a gift exchange or other activity. So once again, gather together on FaceTime or Zoom, and there are other applications out there as well, but those are the two that I'm familiar with. So you could get together and decorate cookies, or you could get together and make gingerbread houses, something like that, where you're both doing the same activity virtually together. Decorate for the season. And then the other thing that you can do is to get out in the evening when the lights are all on and take a drive with your family to enjoy the lights in your neighborhood and town. Another thing they say is to throw a virtual dance party. So if you're used to going dancing and things like that at the holidays, then do that virtually. Another thing is to volunteer and help others in need. So that's something that you can do at this time and stay safe. So that's a really nice little handout that, like I said, if you go on that website, there's a lot of colorful handouts on there that you could give to your school children if you have them, or if you have a business where you could just lay them on the counter for your clients to take when they leave. This is another one that just goes through all of those guidelines of wearing a mask and staying distant from people, washing hands, things like that. So these are just really nice little handouts with a lot of great ideas. This is, if you're hosting a wintertime celebration, it gives you guidelines about planning ahead and about giving your expectations to the guests that are coming into your home. So if you do choose to have guests in your home, feel free to give the expectations. If you expect your guests to wear masks, then you need to tell them that up front and ahead of time. Also, some great information about travel. If you intend to travel over the holidays, I really recommend that you look at the CDC website, because it has some really great, really extensive guidelines on holiday travel. So be sure to check that out. I'm going to show you these websites once again, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about some food ideas. So www.cdc.gov/19-NCOV. So that is the one that shows you, that's the CDC website that gives you a lot of information on COVID. www.foodsafety.org is great, has great information on food safety, gives you all of the temperature charts so that you'll know how hot your foods have to be cooked to or how cold they need to be held. So be sure to check that out, print out some of those things, and invest in a good food thermometer to check your food for temperature, especially your meats and poultries. And then get refrigerator, freezer thermometers for your appliances so that you can make sure that you're keeping those cold and hot enough. Another thermometer that's really important is if you're doing baking, it's really important to have your oven at the right temperature. So you can get an oven thermometer and make sure that your oven is really cooking at the right temperature. And this I haven't talked about yet. This is choosemyplate.gov. So choosemyplate.gov. And that gives a lot of information about nutrition. And on that website, you'll find a lot of information about My Plate and about portioning, things like that. So if you have questions after we talk, then you can go onto that website and get some backup information that you can have at your fingertips. During the holidays, we always talk about how easy it is to gain some weight, and we talk about our holiday 5 pounds or our holiday weight gain, and in the past we've done programs called Maintain, Don't Gain. So some of the tips that I will give you today about maintaining not only your weight but your health during the holidays. One thing is, don't skip breakfast. Well, as a matter of fact, don't skip any meal. Breakfast is really important. If you get up and have breakfast before you start your activities, you'll have more energy and you'll be more likely to stay focused on your activities. And don't skip a meal. If you're going out to dinner, I know that a lot of times it's real tempting to save calories, but if you're going out for dinner, be sure to have a good lunch before you go. Doesn't mean you have to have something high calorie, but have a very well balanced light lunch. So if you're going out for dinner, maybe have a good salad with salad dressing, a lot of fiber in it to help you stay full. And then you'll be less likely to overdo it at night at the dinner. I know that probably this year there won't be so many buffets, but that's really important when you're going to a buffet where you're going to be tempted to go back for seconds and thirds. Another thing is if you do go to a buffet or someplace that you can take leftovers, give yourself some time before you go back for seconds. Then make sure that you really want those. So give yourself 5 or 10 minutes to make sure that you really still are hungry. Focus on fruits and vegetables and whole grains. Those foods are really good for helping to keep us full and satisfied because they have such high fiber. And as we've talked before, they're very good for us because of the phytonutrients in them that help improve our immune system. So that's one of the things that fruits and vegetables and whole grains will do. Lots of vitamins, minerals, fiber, but also those phytonutrients in those dark leafy greens, in those bright colored fruits and vegetables like sweet potatoes and winter squash. Those all will help strengthen our immune system. So I know that sometimes it's really hard at the holidays because you're baking and you're concentrating on other things. So plan ahead and have vegetables ready in the refrigerator. Cut up your carrots into carrot sticks, your celery, slice your cucumbers, fix your radishes, and then put them in an airtight container so that they're ready for you to snack on. If you are having company over, serve that for one of the snacks so that people have a choice of something that they'll feel good about, along with the other more decadent treats that we have, like cookies and pie and cake and things like that. The other thing is rice crackers or rice crisps. Those are another good thing to have at the holidays. And if you're making a dip, make that dip using non-fat Greek yogurt as the base, which will help you cut back on calories and fat and also provide much needed protein with your snacks. Have a bowl of fruit on your counter. One of my favorite Christmas time decorations is to fill a pretty bowl with apples and oranges and tangerines and a couple of bananas, and then tuck sprigs of rosemary in around them. It'll smell and make your kitchen smell so good, and then you always have that fruit right there ready to grab a piece for a snack instead of reaching for the cookies. So have a bowl of fruit, have a tray of veggies ready in the refrigerator, and then cook a batch of brown rice or a batch of quinoa or a batch of barley. Cook a pot, put it in the refrigerator, and then you can add that to soups or to salads as a great way to get some whole grains. You can also eat it as for your morning breakfast cereal. We don't think about having rice as a breakfast cereal or having barley, but it makes a really good alternative to oatmeal, especially if you add some dry fruit, a little bit of honey or a little bit of brown sugar. Makes a really nice breakfast food. Also use leaner cuts of beef and poultry at this holiday time. If you're going to go out for a prime rib dinner, then the rest of the day make sure that your meats and your poultry are lean cuts so that you're saving that, not having that much fat intake, especially the saturated fat. Always remember portion control. If you go to choosmyplate.gov, you can find portion control guidelines. So, and we've talked about portion control before, so always maintain those portions. We know that when we go out to eat, usually the portions are twice as big as we need, so you can kind of keep that in mind if you're going out to dinner. Bring home half of it to enjoy later. We also want to remember moderation. So everything in moderation. If you have one cookie, great, but try to stay at one cookie or two cookies. So everything is okay. All foods fit in a healthy meal plan when we incorporate balance, variety, and moderation. And I've said that over and over again. And the moderation is how much we're going to eat and how often we're going to have that. So we're not going to have Christmas cookies all year round. We're going to have them at Christmas time. So when you enjoy your Christmas cookies, have one or two and feel good about enjoying that. And the rest of the time, enjoy the fruits and vegetables. Also, if you drink, do so in moderation. And what we say is 1 drink for women and 2 drinks for men is in moderation. And then the other thing is to home make some of your foods instead of using processed foods. That way you can control the ingredients. I like to talk about revising our holiday recipes. So if you like that green bean casserole, think about maybe having green beans almondine, where you just sprinkle the steamed green beans with a little bit of lemon juice, and then a sprinkling of toasted either pine nuts or almonds, and enjoy them that way instead of putting it in the cream sauce with the fried onion rings and things like that. The other thing is, if you like apple pie, make a baked apple with some nuts and some raisins, cinnamon, and a little bit of brown sugar or honey, and bake those, and you get the same flavor of the apple pie and save a few calories and some fat. Another thing that you can do is have dried fruit for dessert. Just have maybe some dried apricots, some dried cranberries, dried cherries, and a little bit of cheese, and have that as your dessert. It makes a really good contrast and flavors. So think about things like that for your desserts. Don't shop for groceries if you're hungry. I know that a lot of you busy moms out there, that's a hard thing. Monique's raising her hand saying that's one of her problems. If you're hungry, you tend to spend more money. So make sure that before you go to the store, even if you just have a glass of milk and a graham cracker or something like that, that will help you not be so hungry when you go to the store, and you'll tend to purchase more wisely. Okay, I think that that's all of the tips on just taking care of yourself during the holidays. Once again, I'll just kind of hit the highlights. With COVID, I think once again it's staying distant, wearing our mask, washing our hands, not gathering in big groups. If you're sick or don't feel well, stay home. I didn't talk about temperature. If you don't have a thermometer, that's a good thing to have on hand these days. And if in doubt, take your temperature and make sure that you don't have a fever. So have a thermometer in the house. The other things are just to remember to eat and drink in moderation, and to enjoy people virtually. And if you do get together in groups, make sure that you're keeping the space that you're in clean and disinfected. So have a spray disinfectant around so that you can wipe down surfaces often. Still maintain the use of masks, even if you are with family members. If they don't live in your household, it's recommended that you use masks. So I hope that you've gotten something out of this discussion, and I hope that, I just pray for everyone that you stay healthy and well and safe during this holiday season, and so that we can help lower the spread of COVID-19. And hopefully soon we'll have a vaccine and we will start seeing this get under control. But meanwhile, please follow the guidelines that the CDC and other agencies have out there for us, and stay healthy and happy. And then we can see you back here in the new year. I'm going to go through the websites once again. The first one is the CDC, and it's cdc.gov/19-NCOV. So that's where you'll get lots of good information on COVID. The next is www.foodsafety.org. So that's where you're going to get a lot of information on food safety. This is the USDA food safety website. And then finally, choosemyplate.gov, and this will give you lots of information on diet and portion control, things like that you may find helpful. So I've had a good year. This is our last Facebook Live for 2020, and our next one comes in 2021. And Monique, what is my topic?
Omega 3 and omega 6 fatty acids.
Okay.
For February, yes.
Okay, so that's coming up, and a lot of other subjects are coming up in the new year. So I hope you'll join. Watch our website for advertisement or announcements about my series. Also watch the newspaper. If you have any questions, you can also email me at Debra, Debra, Loder, Loder, at wickhosp.com. I have some holiday recipes that I would be glad to share with you if you want to email me and ask for that. And then once again, you can always call my scheduler, 928-668-1811. So that's the scheduler's phone number. It's not going to be Sandy in the new year because she's not going to be with us, sadly. But you will still get someone who's my scheduler at the same number. So if you'd like to talk privately, please feel free to make an appointment to see me. And I wish you all the best for the remainder of the year. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and we'll see you again in January. Thanks, and have a great day.